Hello and welcome to our Psychology of Work group presentation, brought to you by Caitlin, Sue-Ann, Wendy, Yan and Joyce. Our group will be exploring the topic of organisational conflict and communication through the dual concern theory and Thomas Kilmann's conflict management model. We will also discuss some empirical research we have collated through our investigation. To substantiate our claims, we have included a case study where conflict management has been put into practice. The example we will be focusing on will be a case study of a stressful nursing environment where conflict is quite commonplace. Additionally, we will put forward our own recommendations about managing conflict and communication and how these strategies can be valuable to both individuals and organisations. But let's begin by defining the topic at hand. Communication involves the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using other mediums. Communication can be divided into two forms, verbal and non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication involves the transmission of information through means other than words, an example of which is hand gestures. In an organisational context, we can see that there are four main flows of communication, which include downward, upward, horizontal, and diagonal communication. On the other hand, conflict involves an incompatibility between two or more opinions, principles, or interests. Conflict can arise for a number of perceived reasons, but communication, or lack of, is responsible for approximately 80% of the conflict within the workplace. According to the Adelaide Business Hub, conflict in the workplace can waste up to 52% of the working day, and affects both the business and individual. Additional findings by Medibank Australia found that workplace-related stress as a result of conflict results in cost to economy, employers, productivity lost, and at least 3 days lost per worker per year. Communication can be the cause of conflict, but also a step in solving the conflict that does arise. Conflict can be constructive or destructive, depending on the ways in which it is dealt with.
Dual concern theory derives from two underlying dimensions in measuring individual ways of dealing with conflict, focuses on oneself and concern for others. According to the model, individuals tend to balance and scale their concerns for satisfying their own goal against other people's interest. 5 different styles are categorized in the model: forcing, yielding, avoiding, problem-solving, and compromising. Forcing is resulted from high concern for self and low concern of others, taking on the dominant role and focusing on winning, which potentially causes persuasive arguments that involve threats and bluff. In contrast, yielding or accommodation style are characterized by high concerns for others and low concerns for self. This approach involves incorporating and meeting the needs of others, however, giving in out of social relationship in the face of conflict. On the other hand, low concern for self as well as others results in avoiding. During conflict, these passive dealers adopt wait-and-see attitude, allows conflict to phase out on its own with little personal involvement. Problem-solving, the most desirable style, maximizes individual assertiveness and empathy for others at the same level. This conflict resolution style is highly beneficial for workplace as it encourages collaboration in an effort to find a win-win solution for all parties. Finally, compromising lies on the intermediation of both assertiveness and empathy. Compromisers value fairness and engage in give-and-take interactions, and they are likely to search for middle grounds as a form of conflict resolution. The theory establishes a solid foundation for the development of conflict management strategies. However, the results are highly subjective and often vary according to circumstances.
Thomas Kilmann mode instrument is designed to measure a person's behavior in conflict situations. In such situations, we can describe an individual's behavior along 2 dimensions. The first one, assertiveness, the extent to which the person attempts to satisfy his own concerns, and the second one, cooperativeness, the extent to which the person attempts to satisfy the other person's concerns. These 2 basic dimensions of behavior define 5 different modes for responding to conflict situations. The first one, competing, is assertive and uncooperative. if an individual pursues his own concerns at the other person's expense. This is a power-oriented mode in which you use whatever power seems appropriate to win your own position. The second one, accommodating, is assertive and cooperative. When accommodating, the individual neglects his own concerns to satisfy the concerns of the other person. There is an element of self-sacrifice in this mode. Accommodating might take the form of selfless generosity, obeying another person's order when you would not prefer not to. The third one is avoiding, is unassertive and uncooperative. The person neither pursues his own concerns nor those of the other individual. Thus, he does not deal with the conflict. Avoiding may take the form of postponing an issue until a better time, or simply withdrawing from a threatening situation. The fourth one, collaborating, is both assertive and cooperative. Collaborating involves an attempt to work with others to find some solution that fully satisfies their concerns. It means digging into an issue to pinpoint the underlying needs and wants of two individuals. The fifth one, compromising, is moderate in both assertiveness and cooperativeness. The objective is to find some expedient, mutually acceptable solution that partially satisfies both parties, seeking a quick middle ground solution. It addresses an issue more directly than avoiding, but does not explore it in as much depth as collaborating.
It is important to explore the empirical evidence of each of the theories we have chosen as it helps to assess its validity. In a recent psychological study on the conflicts at work, it has been proven that strategic choices of how to handle conflicts depend on the way a party perceives his or her goal interdependence with others. Conflicts escalate if employees lack other concern but have high self-concern, and they are more likely to engage in struggle and competition in the workplace. A study in 2015 also presented a study which aims to determine the effectiveness of conflict management training based on dual concern theory in a health sector organization. The result shows that the determinants of conflict behavior depend on the motivation for both one and the other interest in conflict situations. The study also found emotional regulation skills, interpersonal communication skills, and problem-solving skills are crucial for handling conflict with understanding others' opinions and interests, facilitating recognition of others' needs and interests, and help in reaching mutually beneficial solutions, minimize the potential for conflict escalation. A study published in 2014 investigating the conflict resolution mechanism found that proper and effective conflict management techniques and styles can help in enhancing individual and organizational productivity. In a recent study reported in International Journal of Conflict Management, it was found that competing gives the greatest impact on conflict handling effectiveness, which means greater collaboration produces more constructive outcomes. A study in the Journal of Nursing Management about the relationship between personal factors and their method of dealing with conflicts also found that conflict management styles can increase positive conflict outcomes and lead to improved relationship among employees, increased job satisfaction. Wendy will now do a case study which will further explain and demonstrate how the two theories can be applied to handle conflicts in the workplace.
The case study we've chosen is a nursing case study of putting conflict management into practice. In the difficult and stressful nature and context of healthcare professionals' work, it's crucial to contribute conflict management into effective nursing organization function and consequently to the excellence of nursing care. The case study is under an oncology setting at a hospital. The nursing team is composed of a head nurse who is in charge of the ward and 11 staff nurses. There are 5 trained registered nurses who have worked in the service for about 9 years and 6 new registered nurses. Although it seems that staff nurses and the head nurse work together in perfect environment, but conflict occurs between them. An excess of authority and power on the part of the leader appears to be the main source of conflict in the service. However, no member of the nursing staff seeks to bring up this uncomfortable situation, as they are concerned about losing their job or making matters worse. So nurse conflict management is handled through silence and inaction. And under the situation, the nursing staff is choosing the avoiding conflict behavior. It's from the dual concern theory. They experience a fear of consequence, and they also deny the existence of the problems. And by Hightower, it says that primary strategy used for handling conflict by nurse is the avoiding. Besides the head nurse using the competing conflict behavior, as maybe the leadership style, it's based on the authority and the power. And what's needed for solving the conflict? First, we need time, discuss problems and find solution in collaboration of both parties. And it's too busy to think about interpersonal conflict for nurse, so sometimes we need more time. And also we need capacity to resolve, we need skills and resources. In conclusion, nurse managers' roles are essential to a cost-effective healthcare delivery system, and advanced personnel management calls for head nurse as necessary, and nursing staff become more promote will be better.
While the idea of conflict is often perceived as a negative or destructive process, it is an inevitable and necessary social process that, when managed well, contributes to the creativity, growth, cohesiveness, and productivity of an organization. It is not always beneficial to avoid conflict, rather, it is important to tackle the issue in the early stages of it arising. After analysing the previous theories, it would be beneficial for many organizations to seek third-party assistance from an intermediary with no conflicts of interest. As mentioned in the nursing case study and replicated in many organizational environments, workers often fear speaking out about conflict they are facing, particularly to higher entities such as their bosses or managers. Having a department set up to deal with conflict management would encourage workers to relay their concerns, which would ease the process of conflict management, as it will not be taken as a personal issue, and will therefore create a more positive environment as conflicts are handled by professionals in the earlier stages of perception. Additionally, we would suggest that individuals approach conflict in a more positive way, without seeing it as a necessarily destructive force. Furthering this, individuals need greater awareness of nonverbal communication skills. It is not simply the words that convey a message, but nonverbal cues such as tone, body language, control of voice, and inflections that portray a message, and therefore can significantly impact the result of conflict management. As we've mentioned, conflict is inevitable, but not necessarily a destructive force. Through our empirical research grounded in the theories of dual concern and Thomas Kilmann's conflict mode instrument, along with our case study, we hope you better understand different forms of conflict and communication within an organizational context. Thank you.